Hey, welcome back to the Frank Driscoll Show. We have a special guest for us today. We have a guy that's 30 under 30, who's been featured in countless magazines and news articles, who sold over 5,000 houses, who has, honestly, a kick-ass team. He's got an incredible coaching program that I've personally gone through that is amazing in the 90-day boot camp and his mastery program. He does tons of public speaking. He has the #1 real estate podcast in the world. This guy is absolutely amazing. He's a great mentor to me as well as a close friend. Welcome to the show, Joshua Smith. Thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's an honor to be here, man. And I'm excited for this. Been excited since he asked me about a week ago. And just watching, dude, it's been such a wild ride, dude. You know, it's crazy thing. I know we always joke of, you know, you started reaching out to me. I didn't know who you were. And then once I met you, we became friends, you know, so quickly, and it progressed from there. But watching your growth over the last 2 years, dude, has just been unfucking real, dude. So I commend you, man, and it's an honor to, you know, have you as a friend and as well as a mentor, you know, right? I mean, I've been able to mentor and coach you in spaces, and you know, you've one-on-one coached, you know, my ISAs and even my sales guys and other businesses, yeah, right? Because you've got a skill set that I can't match and that I haven't seen matched by others. So it's always super cool when you know, the mentor becomes the mentee, you know, right? Now it's awesome, dude. So I commend you in all your success, man. It's awesome to watch, bro.
Well, thanks so much. And Josh is being pretty modest. He's actually really, really good at all the skill sets that I have. I think personally just didn't want to do the time to put in to get those guys better, but I understand that. And a couple of things just right out of the bat that you probably don't know about Josh that I can give you some insight. This guy is amazing. He has given so much of his own personal time to me. I can tell you flat out 100%, no possible way I would be in this position of success, of the confidence that I have, the advice that he's given me, the countless hours on the phones. I mean, there was a time there where we were talking every night, and straight up, I would not be in this position. So for you guys out there, one just quick note, find someone that's better than you. Do anything you can to help them, and any advice that they'll be willing to share, you know, for that time that you're willing to put in to help them, I strongly recommend it, because there's no possible way that I could be in this position without Josh. And it's not even a question. I know for a fact. So I really appreciate it. We'll get into this, but I just wanted to personally say thank you, and I really appreciate you coming so much to come on.
Yeah, no, 100%, dude. Like I said, it's an honor, man. It's funny. I just got a 4-hour-long free masterclass I did for a bunch of real estate agents. I mean, just 4 straight hours, dude, you know, right? And one thing, you know, I spent a lot of time on for, I don't know, like 20 minutes at the beginning of it, you know, breaking down the power of mentors, you know, right? I'm like, look, guys, and I broke down my past. Like, you know, before I got into real estate, I never made, you know, I was making $10.50 an hour as a nurse's aide. And even when I switched and transitioned to health club sales, I never, even with multiple jobs, I never made more than $30,000 a year before I got into real estate. And, you know, college dropout, I was just a loser, right? And I'm like, look, dude, I'm a guy that has 0 skill sets, you know, right? Like I was never good at really, like growing up, like I wasn't good at really sports. I was okay, you know, right? But I was never the dude that was always picked. And I was just kind of a loner. I didn't really have interests or hobbies, and wasn't good at school, wasn't, you know, whatever. And like I told them, I'm like, but the one thing that I've, and I don't know how it stemmed, or maybe I just got lucky when I got into the business to find a mentor and I saw the power of the gate, is the one thing I've done well. And I continue to do this today, but through my 14-year journey, has been finding and aligning with the right mentors, you know, right? And those that are watching and listening, look, I get it that we may not have the financial means to go out there and invest a lot of money in a coach or a mentor, but mentors don't need to cost you any money. You know, some of my greatest mentors cost me nothing, you know, right? Other than, right, like you got to be intentional with your time, you know, right? Like here's an example with this, like going after mentors just like you would a real estate client. You know, right? Like imagine Frank Driscoll just, you know, going after a FSBO or like having that same tenacity. So I have a guy right now that I've known for some time that is the best guy on the planet at Infusionsoft, right? Like he owns 6th Division. His brother's actually the co-founder of Infusionsoft, right? I want a close relationship with him and him to, you know, mentor me personally. right? So I looked for an angle where I could mentor him first. So the other day, like on my dime, my time, went out there and I drove all the way across town, spent 8 hours with him, helping him dial in his Facebook funnel. And he's doing a digital product, right? And I've I don't want to say mastered, but I'm pretty damn good at e-commerce and anything online marketing I shine at. And, I've got my 10,000 hours in, right? But I'm mentoring him on setting all this up, right? So there's always a way typically to find a skill set that maybe you have that they don't, that you can add value to their life, or an exchange of time, right? Now your mentor's time might be worth 10 times yours. So you might have to give them 10 hours for every 1 hour, right? But a lot of successful people, man, they're involved in charities and causes that you could volunteer and donate your time to. They always have an abundance of work. Like anybody could be like, hey, Josh, I want you to mentor me for an hour a week. And in exchange for that, I'll give you 10 hours of my time. Right? Like I can find tons of shit for anybody to do in that 10 hours, right? So if you're willing though, to be intentional with it, it doesn't have to cost money. And my first mentor was my broker owner, and I was with him for the first 9 years of my career. And not only was he the broker owner of a local Remax brokerage here in Phoenix, Arizona, he was also one of the top team leaders in the country and he'd been in business for 25, 30 years at that point. And just a badass, right? And I didn't care about what the splits were. I didn't care about the fees. I couldn't afford to be at that office, right? But it was just a risk I was willing to take because I just wanted to be around his presence. He was the most successful dude I ever met. I'm like, that's who I want to fucking be, right? And just be intentional about aligning with those people, man. It's so critical. It's the ultimate hack to success, right?
Well, look, I mean, there's so much advice that you've just given for those people. And I love that you're willing, like for Infusionsoft, the CRM company, and that other one, Sixth Division, that, kind of does the advanced work. I love that you just immediately know, okay, I'm going to give these guys massive value. And for those that don't know, Josh is a master of really the art of funnel in any way, whether online or off. He can really take those core concepts and he understands how to tweak and work it to get the absolute most out of it. So that's obviously going to be a huge value for him. And to see that you're tenacious, that you're going to go after something and get it. And that's a lesson for everyone else watching. Just like you said, find something of value that you can provide and don't take no for an answer. Just try to give more and more value, until you can ultimately get what you're looking for from them. And if not, you can go to a different person and try. But that is so critical for the mentorship. So we appreciate sharing. What's your background? How did you get into this? How did you get into real estate to begin with?
Dude, everything I've ever done, man, is all been like on accident, right? It's so funny because I talk about being intentional and getting clarity and, but if I look at every business that I'm involved in, like it just kind of happened, dude. It was like, so I was jumped into, I grew up in the health club industry. My father owned and operated gyms for like 30 years. And so when I was younger, I started working for my dad when I was like 11 and got into health club sales at 14 and selling personal training, selling memberships and, doing all of that. And then my dad retired from that industry as soon as I graduated high school. He sold the gyms and moved to Arizona. So I was still in Michigan at that point. And then I transitioned into hospitals, thought I wanted to go into healthcare, because at that point in my life, dude, I wasn't driven. Like I didn't give two shits about, money or, I always worked hard, and I always took pride in what I did. And I've never been able to sit still, right? So I'm always moving. I'm not a guy like can go to work and like even back in Michigan, like for example, the hospitals, it was all union. So they try to force you to take breaks and then go in a waiting room and watch TV with all the people that you're just working with. I'm like, I don't want to fucking go hang out with these people on my break. And then plus I hate watching TV, right? So I would just go like clean stretchers and, right? Just I've got to always stay busy. It just clicked. I had a low moment in my life in my early 20s. I just dropped out of college and things were just spiraling out of control for me. And really at the end of the day, it got out of control because I had a victim mindset. I was just blaming everybody, my upbringing, whatever, just pointing the finger for how shitty my life had wound up. And I became very depressed, and got to the point where I was always in great shape, right? Like when I was, I shouldn't say that. When I was elementary, whatever, I was a little chubby, but like junior high through high school, man, I mean, I was competing in like teenage Mr. Michigans and, wrestled and always in great shape. But when I got depressed, instead of I stopped working out, and instead of eating 2 chicken breasts and broccoli, I'm eating 2 double Whoppers with cheese, and just I have a massively addictive personality, as I think most of us driven entrepreneurs have. So like I'm an extremist, right? So next thing I know, man, I'm just start piling on negative weight. Now I'm morbidly obese, almost weighing 300 pounds. I'm drunk every day by noon, and I'm broke as hell. Again, I'm working at the hospital making $10.50 an hour. And it was always like, dude, it always seemed like there was one too many weeks in a month. Like I always had enough money to get through like the first 3 weeks, but just never could get through and it was just always tight. And I had times where I was having to live in my car and shower at the gym because I couldn't afford rent. But through all that, my depression got really severe. And one day I just had a bad low moment, and I decided to change things around. I'm like, look, dude, I've got to solve this problem. But at that time I couldn't. I was like, well, what would make me happy? Like, what's the opposite of depression? Well, it's fulfillment. I'm like, what would make me fulfilled? I couldn't really think of it. Right. So I identified, I'm like, well, what makes me unhappy about my situation? Right. And there's 2 big things. It was the weight I'd gained, and then being fucking broke all the time. So at that point, I decided to jump back in the health club space. And I knew that business. I enjoyed it. I was kind of hesitant because I was, now, morbidly obese and fat, right? Not necessarily the best, leading by example of trying to sell health. But lost the weight pretty quickly, went on my 118-pound weight loss journey. And got into health club sales. And that's right. Also, my wife wasn't my wife at the time, girlfriend. We met when we were 16. So we've been together now for over half our lives. But at that point, we moved from Michigan to Phoenix, Arizona. We wanted to get to a bigger city, sunshine, just get out of the Midwest. So I took on a management position out here in Phoenix, Arizona, running a facility, and did that for a year. And through that time, when I was working for my dad, I'd always honestly thought like I would take over my dad's gyms. And then, he approached me when I was 18. But this is like right when I was getting ready to start college, right? And before I changed my major like 13 times in the first year and dropped out, right? So it wasn't that extreme, but he approached me and asked if I wanted to take him. Like, that was an option to take him over. But I was like, look, man, like at that point, like, man and I was already talking about after college, like getting out of Michigan, and there's a lot of uncertainty. And I didn't, because look, I couldn't afford to buy my dad out. At that point, I didn't have a dime to my name. So it'd have to be a residual payout. I couldn't, wouldn't be able to not honor that. And I didn't think that was a good move for me to take on that commitment, which it wouldn't have been. And I'm glad it went that way, but I never had a thought of anything other than that. But now that I'm working for somebody else and from my upbringing in that space, I'm like, dude, I just, at that point, it became very clear to me that I needed to get into ownership. So, but the facility I wanted to, I ran medium box facilities. That's like your 15 to 20,000. It's not like your CrossFit. It's not like your huge 24-hour fitness, but it's like the, typical local gym, right? Size business. And for me to create what I wanted to create, it was going to cost $800,000 for me to open the doors, all the TIs, equipment. And I had like $800 to my name, right? And no credit, college dropout. So needless to say, I couldn't get a loan. Now this was 2005. So I'm sitting there thinking about like, well, how do I raise the money? My dad was actually got into real estate at that time, and he was doing really well. And I met so many people in real estate, health clubs, you just meet everybody. It's one thing I loved about that business, is you just get to know everybody in the town. I met so many, and who knows, everybody to the outside world, all realtors have a ton of money. And the reality is they're all broke as shit, right? Not all, but vast majority. And so it appeared that they were all doing really well. And also 2005, biggest boom we'd ever seen, at least here in Phoenix Metro. So I'm like, dude, that's it, right? I don't need a college degree. I can jump in for a few $100. So honestly, it was supposed to just be a stepping stone, dude. I was going to, I was 23 years old. I was engaged, but not married, no kids. I'm like, fuck it, dude. I mean, I'm a workhorse. I love to work hard. I love people. I love sales. So I'm like, I'll work 100 hours a week. And I figured I could raise the capital for a down payment in probably 3 or 4 years. So I jumped into real estate, and that was still my plan until about year 3. Right out of the gate, did really well, 48 home sales, $280,000 in gross commissions. Started my team going to my second year. Second year, we hit 103 homes. But by that third year was when the team really started to grow and expand. And that's when I fell in love with real estate. I actually had an agent come into my office one day just bawling. I'm like, oh shit, dude. Like, and I don't do good, with emotions, and especially like when women are crying. I'm like, do you just want to come back when you're okay? And like, then we could talk. Like, I don't know, I hate those situations. Right. So I'm thinking it's a bad situation, but she just comes in and just starts profusely just thanking me, right. She's like, look, I'm in the best shape I've ever been in my life. I'm making more money than I've ever made. My relationship with my, family and husband is better than it's ever been. And, it's all been, because of you and this, the experience, from being in the team. And the reality is I can't ever take that credit that she did the work. But at that moment, it was just like this big aha where I was just like the impact play just hit me where, I love the gyms because, especially after I lost the weight, I even fell in love with it that much more, just seeing the impact that it's made in my life. And you had a tangible result that you could help people with, and you could just see it in their confidence. And, right. It was a cool experience, man. But then I realized at that moment I could have much bigger impact here. And that was when I really fell in love with it. And at that point, I always say that was the moment where real estate, health clubs was always my passion and still is today. And now I'm re-involved in the health and fitness space again. But real estate became my obsession at that point. Right. And then I knew I was in it for life. So then I just, at that point, then it was just fully commitment to the next level. We went from, like I said, 103 homes that full second year to by end of year number 3. I think we popped almost 363 homes year number 3, and just started to really scale it from there. Just because at that point I knew I was fully committed and doing this for the long haul, right? So yeah, that's how it all happened, bro.
Well, look, it's an awesome story. I love the switch and the transition, which leads into my normal question of the aha moment. So it was really when you saw the impact that you had, that you were really good at this. What transition? How did you go from like where you're a team to then at some point coaching or doing the 90-day boot camps and that? How did that come about? And,
dude, again, man, it happened on accident, bro. The cool thing, dude, is, growing up in a business, right. And with an entrepreneur family, I always, even though my dad, it wasn't like he slayed it in health club business. I mean, he had 2 health clubs and, but he's, I don't know what he made at that time, 150 grand, which maybe is the equivalent to $250,000 nowadays, right. With inflation, but, it was lived a good life in the Midwest, right. For him, but I was still able to see the inner workings of a business. And I always knew I wanted to create a business. Like my dad could go on vacations and, do all this stuff. And like he didn't have to be there. He wasn't involved in this day-to-day sales and operations. And I always knew I wanted that, right. And then, when I came out here to Phoenix and started managing the facility out here, the owner had like 7 facilities, and then being able to really watch him operate. And, so when I got into real estate, even when it was a stepping stone, I knew from day one, I wanted to create a business. And again, man, the foundation that the health club business laid for me was huge, right? So like the gym I opened up out here that I managed in Phoenix, I did all the pre-sales, right? So it was as the facility was getting built out, right? I started, and I did this for 2 facilities prior to working for this guy as well. So I had some experience from like startup through like building out a whole entire sales team, right? So, starting off, let's just say in the sales trailers, it's getting built out. Like you're literally renting a trailer, a box trailer in the parking lot and selling memberships. And let's just say, once we got to the point where we had maybe, 300 memberships, pre-sales, then it made economic sense to bring on an assistant. And that assistant would then, when the health club opened, be the front desk staff. Right? Then once we hit the 500 sales, I could bring on my first sales guy. Then 750, bring on the second guy, build out a sales team of, 8 salespeople and 3.5 support staff, front desk staff for the coverage. right? So it was really a natural progression for me to go on there and build the team. And I knew about capacities because of it, so, got to the point where, again, that 48 deals that first year. And you got to remember, like today, that doesn't sound like a lot. I see agents today doing, 50, 60, 70. Now, this isn't to give myself an excuse for not doing 60, 70, 80 deals my first year, like some of these agents are today, that I've had on the podcast, like Justino Arroyo, like 80 deals while being a full-time police detective, just fucking beast, man. I can't even fathom. But in 2005, dude, the reality is it did take longer to do a transaction. I mean, there was no smartphones. We weren't even really using scanners. There's no DocuSign. I'd have to drive, and the market was so nuts. I mean, I would have to drive to meet with clients if it's 1, 2 a.m., 45 minutes across town to get a signature. So at 4 deals a month, man, I was really at a max capacity. So I brought on my first assistant and actually stole her. She was my escrow officer's assistant. And so I'm sitting there thinking, and again, I'd hired a lot of assistants and over the years from my previous experience, and not a ton, but enough to have a good grasp on the hiring process, right? And I'm trying to get clarity of who I wanted. I'm interviewing, and in my head, I'm like, who is the perfect candidate? I'm like, dude, I just need to clone Ashley. Right? Like she was just so badass and so epic. And then one day it just hit me. I'm like, dude, why don't I just fucking steal her? Right? Like, if they get pissed off, I can give my business somewhere else, like escrow companies, right? Not that they don't do great jobs, but just in business and life, everybody's replaceable, including myself, right? So, but I'm like, the ability to allow me to grow will allow me to feed them so much more business. And luckily they were cool with it. There was no bad blood there. But honestly, dude, part of that is a lot of it was just luck of just, meeting her through, a buddy that told me to use this escrow company, and I tried them and just met her. But she's really been, the rock of the team from day one of, being able to implement and operate the back end. It's like every business out there, man. It's success doesn't happen alone. Right? People always talk about being self-made, and it's like, dude, there's no such thing as self-made, right? Like we've all had mentors and people that have helped us along the way, and the bigger the bigger your dream, the more important your team. And she just did such a brilliant job at handling the back end, building out the processes and systems where I was able to just focus on just sales. Literally after 6 weeks after hiring her, and I remember it like it was yesterday, back then we used to have our Franklins, Franklin calendars. I pull out my, Franklin calendar, and I get a call from a buyer wanting to go look at homes. And dude, I'm 3 weeks booked out my calendar, right? Now they might wait 2 or 3 days. They're not waiting 3 weeks. So at that point, it was just like, boom, okay, dude, like I'm now it's the point where I'm losing business. Yeah, right. And here's one thing, and this is a long answer to your question. I'm segueing back into it. One thing I've always done is I still do this today with every one of my businesses. I grow out of necessity, never out of want, right? There's nothing wrong with wanting to go and create a team. I get it. Everybody should want to. It's the only way to have a true business, whether you do a team or a brokerage, right? Otherwise you just always have a job in this industry, right? So if you want to have a business that gives back to you, where you can have a life and be like me, where I sell, we sell 50 plus homes a month, and I work less than an hour a week in that business, right? It becomes like just owning a bunch of apartment buildings, right? But I've been able to grow it smart, just again, out of need, out of necessity. Like we're bursting out of the seams. We're out of capacity before I bring that person on. And again, being in the health clubs was such a good, because that's how we had to grow in that business. Well, any business should grow that way, but that's how I was conditioned to expand. So it carried over, really, really well. And then, so dude, I just over the years, and it took, in all honesty, it took 8 years for me to exit from production. And today, knowing what I know now, I'm confident I could do it in 2 or 3. I could go from being, zero, being brand new to, 500-600 deals a year in production in about 3 years. But at that time, right, 2005, a couple of years of the biggest boom, and my team had built up to, we were a top 100 Wall Street Journal team in the nation at that point, but the market crashed so hard. Yeah, right. And my business just transitioned massively, dude. It went from your traditional team, real estate team is kind of lighter on the admin side, heavier on the agent side. It's like right now today, I have 28 full-time agents, and then a bunch of part-time and whatever. But to operate all of that, let's just say, I think last time I checked, 67 total agents between everybody. Right. But that's 2 full-time transaction coordinators. They can each handle 25 closings a month before they're, start to hit a capacity. Full-time listing coordinator and then an office manager. Right. Where in REO and in short sales, right, it becomes the opposite. Right. It's like very few agents. We have this assembly line of staff. So a lot of it was just restructuring my team model. And dude, again, Arizona, we got hit so hard, like a lot of other places, but we were in the top 2 or 3 in the country as far as, we had homes. Just to put some context. The home that I bought, luckily I bought in 2004 before the market went crazy, and I bought the house for 140 grand. The next year is worth 275. Right. At the bottom of the market, that house was worth 85. Right. I was selling land parcels, acre parcels for 150 grand. At the bottom, I'm selling those same parcels for 5 grand. Right. So, we still haven't, Phoenix, dude, still hasn't recovered. We're one of the only places in the country where, and there's pockets that are getting close, but as a whole, we're still about 20% below 2005 peak prices. So we had a transition with that. And then, REO and short sales pretty heavily for about 3.5-4 years, transitioned back into traditional, which that was just cause I'd already done it. That was such an easy transition. And then, putting that team back in place by then, cause in REO, dude, I was forced to be very involved. Right. Cause I had clients like Fannie Mae that sent me 80, 90 listings a month. And it's a $1 million+ account, and they only want to speak to me. Right. They're not going to handle you delegating. At that point, it's so much of your business, you can't burn that bridge. Right. So as soon as that started to fizzle out, and I could rebuild back to a traditional team, got to the point, honestly, where I was getting bored, bro. Like, I'm used to working 80, 100-hour work weeks. And now, cause I had such a great team and still do this, still do, where now I'm working 20-hour weeks and dude, I didn't know what to do with myself. I was lost. I felt like tremendous guilt, right? Like, I think especially for a lot of men, your worth gets tied to your work ethic, and I'm like, what do I do with myself? Well, because of the success that I had in real estate, right? By year number 3, I popped over $1 million. And then, I think year number 4 is when I was Wall Street, Journal's 30th in the country, then NAR 30 under 30, dude. That really, as far as like speaking gigs, podcasts, that just started to explode, dude. And so I'm getting asked to speak all over the place, and I've always been, a guy that just gives, dude. My mom always tells stories about like when I was a kid, right? Like I'd drive her nuts because I'd get this like brand new toy and a friend would like it and I'd give it away to him. Right. And my wife hates it too because I just fucking give it. Like if you came into my office like, oh, I like that painting, I'm like, oh fuck, here, you take, right? Like I'm just always one of these guys that just gives. So, but I also was, when I was getting so damn busy, where it was too hard for me when agents would call up and say, hey, can I take you to lunch? Can I, and I wanted to do that, dude, because the reality is I took every fucking top producer in my market to lunch, right? And I couldn't even afford lunch, so they ended up usually paying. Right? But dude, again, I had that's the cool thing about this business is those that truly make it and truly create success. They're just some of the kindest, most giving, transparent, abundant people you ever meet. They just give you everything, dude. And how you repay those people is by operating in the same way and giving back. But I got to the point where I couldn't, dude. Now I have kids and I couldn't. And so I decided to create a YouTube channel, and I put out like 300 videos, dude, of just tips. Like I didn't have anything to sell. Like people would reach out to me like, hey dude, I saw you speak here and I saw you talk about your listing presentation. Can I buy your listing presentation? I'm like, nah, it's not for sale, but just here it is, right? So again, then all this leads to me just being, getting slower, having more time, trying to figure out, like, I'm lost, man. I just felt incomplete as a human being at that point. Even though my business is doing better, like I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish, but I felt more incomplete than I read previously. It's probably like the equivalent of, like the mom that when the kids leave the house, right, she's not able to take care of, right? Like that's how I guess I don't know the feeling of the mom, but yeah, I'm assuming that, put an analogy to it, it's probably how I felt. But then one day there's the dots connected, right? Man, I was getting hit up, I don't know, a dozen times a week from agents, can you coach me? Can you coach me? And it was just always no, 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 no. So I decided to say yes. And one day, and then that led to, where it is right now. So again, that was just something, it wasn't intentional. It just happened, dude. But for me to take on coaching clients at that time, to make it worth my time, right, dude, I mean, it was $2,500 a month, year contracts, and that would be 30-minute coaching calls every other week. Right. I mean, that's, as Frank, doing a guy that does a lot of one-on-one, right. The time investment is so much out of those calls, reviewing P&Ls. Like I go deep into their business. So, there's a lot of communication happening on top of that. But I had to charge a certain amount to make it worth my time.
Right.
And, a lot of agents couldn't afford it. And I wanted to, over the years, dude, I've invested, I mean, at this point over $1 million, but at that time, about $300,000 in real estate coaches. And man, it was always so frustrating because it was like, dude, every coach was always pretty much a disappointment. I mean, I've had a couple a couple good ones. I shouldn't say all of them, but the vast majority when it comes to, real estate agent coaching, like building your real estate business, right? I'm always like, man, I've had to exhaust so much money and time and energy. And I was just always bitching about it. And, when all this stuff started happening with the coaching, I was just like, dude, I want to just create what I wished always existed. I'm like, there's got to be a way to create the most affordable and effective platform that exists on this planet. Been at that now for 4 years, and I think we've done it, but who knows? Right? We're still revamping it and we try to tweak it and improve it every day. But yeah, it just all happened organically, which has been pretty epic.
I can speak to that, and I've been through Josh's program, and I'm going to tell you, hands down, it's the best value there is. This isn't like an infomercial, this is just a podcast, but guys, definitely, take a look at it. I'm sure I'll put in the link below, but I can say it's changed my life, and it's not in always the ways that you think, like for me, the content's outstanding and it's great, but I think, like it said, it kind of goes back to that mentor. When you have someone that's very confident and skilled, and you're now able to grow closer in the interaction and ask all the questions that you need and get those answers from, I think it's absolutely unbelievable what you've created. And there's another part too he doesn't talk about, but he's created a community. And like the people in his alumni program, they know a lot of the stuff, but I think they're there because it's part of the community that they're helping each other and building it out. And it's pretty awesome to watch how much Josh gives. He puts on events that he doesn't charge for. Okay. Where it's really just the cost of your time to go to, and he gives his all and brings in amazing guests. So, because of his relationships and the kind of person he is, it really carries over deeply into what he's built with his following and the people that are in there. They truly, they have his back, just like I do as well. I mean, it's an incredible thing that you've achieved. And I haven't really seen that in very other places, at least in the real estate world. Okay. So you've done an outstanding job on that. So
yeah, I appreciate that, bro. And this is so important for those that are watching and listening. And this has nothing to do with the program, right? But it has when you talked about the community. So there's a gentleman, he's no longer alive today, but Dr. David McClellan, brilliant doctor. He was a professor at Harvard, and this guy devoted 30 years of his life to he and his science team studying the most elite, successful human beings on the planet from any type of a niche, athletics to business to you name it, like all the greats. And he was just obsessed. Again, 30 years of his life, professional career devoted to like connecting the dots, right? I'm like, what is it that these people have, right? Like, their obsession, their drive, all of this stuff. And the number one thing after 30 years of devoting his life to it that he came up with, and he calls it, it's not reference group. I can't remember the technical name, but your associations, right? But yeah, the number one leading cause to your success or your failure, or your failure in life, is your reference group, right? So, and Jim Rohn puts it another way of, you're the average of the 5 people you spend most time with. Yeah, right. So, no matter what is you're trying to level up in your business, dude, like you got to be very intentional about getting around the right people. Now, this doesn't mean, I know some people go to the extreme and like, oh, like lead forward, get the fuck out of my way. Like if you're not leveling up, I'm not rolling with you. Look, man, I've got a lot of friends and family members that I love to death that aren't leveling up, you know, like the way that I am, that are totally content and good with mediocrity. And that's the life that they choose. But man, they're like, I'd fucking lay down in traffic for those people. Like, I'm not going to cut those people out of my life just because I mean, that's, you know, how shallow of a person would I be? You know, right now, if they weren't supporting me with my goals, just like I'm supporting them with theirs, that'd be a different story. Yeah. Right. So I'm not saying to cut people out, but you got to also be intentional about getting around the right people, you know, right. And spending time and just being intentional with that, man. It's so damn important. You know, right? From just a mindset, a motivation, bouncing ideas off of each other. You know, because what people don't understand about all entrepreneurship is man, it becomes a very lonely road on your path to leveling up to success. Because you get to a point where, you know, success isn't a doing process, it's a becoming process. So you're always having to become, you know, like the Joshua Smith, you know, you're the Joshua Smith original version, then the 2.0, then the 3. Like you're always having to become the person first. Right. So you're always changing, shifting, and adapting, which makes it hard to connect with, you know, others that you've associated with over the years. Right. Because you're somebody different now. So maybe, you know, the time with them isn't as enjoyable as it was before. But also for them, like they don't know who the fuck you are anymore. Yeah. Right. And then as you're going through this, a lot of times you don't know who the fuck you are right now either. You know, right. And again, it can be, you know, this lonely transition, or it can, if you're not careful, it can feel like you're all alone. But with the right associations, you find that, man, the same people are going through the same, like everything that you're going through on this success journey, others have went through it too. Everybody goes through their own shit storms, you know, right? But it's so important to have those relationships and, you know, bounce those ideas off and get that support, man. Becomes huge.
No, I totally agree with you. And like I said, his group, man, it's like the Spartans. It's they are just tight knit and all in, and it's pretty awesome to see. And luckily, I'm a part of it too, so I love it. What is the greatest failure you've had in real estate, and what did it teach you?
The greatest what?
Failure you've had in real estate, and what did it teach you?
Oh shit, dude. You know, I would say that I mean, there's so many, you know, right? But I would say the biggest, like if I had to pinpoint one thing, would there really be, I guess, 2, but, you know, I'm going to share both of them because I can't just share one because I can't identify which one is above the other. You know, the first one was not getting clarity of what I wanted to create, why I wanted to create it out of the gate. Yeah, right. I was so sick of being broke. And of course I was trying to raise money, and I just was all about making more money when I got in this business. And in my 4th year into this business, you know, I'm making more money than I ever made or ever fathomed I would ever be making. You know, I mean, dude, I'm in my still mid-20s, and, you know, net on net bringing in $700,000 a year, you know, right, grossing, you know, over $1 million a year, but after expenses, whatever. You know, I never fathomed making that kind of money, but my lifestyle was so shitty. Right. I mean, I'm sleeping at the office at times. I'm working 12 a.m. or 4 a.m. to midnight. You know, my wife and kids lived half a mile down the street from my office. I'm going 3-4 days without seeing them. I'm just tired. And it was just like, why am I doing all this? Right. I just got miserable. I was more miserable than when I was broke. At least when I was broke, I was still enjoying life, you know, right. So at that point, I really had to reflect deeply and define, you know, like, what did I want out of this thing? And the biggest piece of advice I could give you guys there is a business. Like if you're going to go out there and build a business, just like anything you're going to invest into, like if you're going to invest into a relationship or a marriage, you know, right? Like you're going to invest all this time and energy and money and, you know, whatever into a marriage, like you better reciprocate out of that, you know, right? Like it's got to go both ways, right? So if I'm going to put all this blood, sweat, tears, and risk into a business, that motherfucker better give back to me, you know, right? I mean, this is an investment. Right. So I had to get clear on that. Like what type of a lifestyle that I want to live. And I started doing things like going through and visualize like what my perfect day would be. What time do I wake up? What's the first thing that I do? What's the second thing? What's the third thing? And at that point for me, it's like, look, I knew I loved to grind. I don't ever plan on retiring. That's like the only swear word in my vocabulary is retirement. Just because I do what I love. Like I do this stuff. I didn't make any money at it at all. Right. But I hate being locked into a location. I want freedom of location, and I want to own my schedule. Right? So like when I want to do the work, I'll get it done. The work still needs to get done, but again, I want to be able to be anywhere on the planet to do that, and then again, full autonomy of my schedule, and had to massively rebuild. At that point, massively transition and to go out there and create that. And if I would have gotten more clarity on that day one, it would have been so much easier. The second component to it is, and this is honestly something I still struggle with today. Again, as I said earlier, and this is just stealing a Jim Rohn quote, but success is not a doing process, it's a becoming process, right? So I got the corniest tattoo on the planet that says "Be More" down my arm. Just always a reminder, right, of it. I grew so fast in my team, I didn't become the leader I needed to become first. Right. So it created a lot of turmoil, with that. I failed a lot of people over the years, with that, and hurt massively, my real estate growth, just from little things like not hiring the right people or keeping people on longer than I should have, even though, they're deadbeats in the business. But, a lot of times, like I hate confrontation, dude. Like just calling it what it is. I look at myself like kind of like Andrew Carnegie, right? Like Andrew Carnegie was just such a nice guy, great businessman, but such a nice guy. And when he got clarity that he wanted to beat out Rockefeller to become the richest man in America, to do that, he knew that he didn't have the backbone to do it. So he hired the CEO that brought him in, like guy who's just straight savage, to take over the company to make those hard decisions. Because at that time it was like, 16-hour work days, like maybe people were dying at work, like to do what they had to do, which is an extreme. So when I say I'm like Andrew Carnegie, not in that realm, but with that, not only did he put the person in place, he left the fucking country, right? So like he couldn't even be in the same country to witness it. And the only way back then to communicate was like via ship, via letter, right? With that. And, it's like today, like I'm good at running a business off a spreadsheet, but once I get involved emotionally, dude, like, and it's still something I'm still working on, man. But it really comes down to not making the hard decisions that are necessary for the vision of the business. And putting my pussiness for confrontation and also just the hurting other people, right? Like even though they're not leveling up, right? Like, I mean, you get to know these people personally, and at that point when you fire them, the relationship's probably gone. And you get to know them, their kids, and it becomes hard. But dude, if I would have dialed in those two things, I'd be 10x where I am right now today.
Oh, great answers. And you know what? I think it's always hard, like when you care about someone, to let them go if it's not the right fit. I don't think that's ever an easy thing, and that goes back to that you really care about them, if that makes sense, right? It's part of that process, but sometimes it's necessary to move forward. So we have to do that. But, you always want to do it any way you can to try to help them out. So I like your approach on that. What drives you to keep going when it's tough? When you're not getting those results that you want?
Dude, I would love to give some amazing answer of, clarity on what I want. I mean, yeah, okay, dude, I got 3 kids. My wife stays at home with them. Like, they rely on me to provide, but at the end of the day, because I wasn't monetarily driven, but I've always been, a pretty driven guy when it comes to, like I said, like just wherever I worked, I always, always put in massive effort. And I've been through a lot of hardship and if I had to boil it down to, the root cause, I think it's just, I had a great mentor, man. My mom, dude, is just fucking one of the strongest women like I've ever met, right? I've ever known. And she's just I've seen her go through like her childhood and what she's went through, and just witnessing that in life, but always still seeing her just never stop, never give up, always continuing to push. Right. I think that really set the stage, dude. Right. Of just like, dude, like my mom was, before I moved with my dad when I was 14, I always lived with my mom before that. And my dad was out of state. So for most, my younger years, I was raised by, a single mom. And so she was a nurse's aide or in the healthcare field, not a nurse's aide, but medical, whatever, in that field. And there's not a ton of money in that, right? So in addition to that, man, she was always cleaning houses, just always hustling, always, grinding. And I remember like we'd come home, dude, and power would be shut off and we'd have to pack up in the middle of the night and go to, the Motel 6 down the street or whatever. And just whatever. But like she had a great attitude about it, just kept grinding and just pushing through it. And then from there too, dude, and this again goes back to my mom, she talks all the time about, cause I'm like the most stubborn, bullheaded motherfucker you ever meet. Yeah. Right. But my mom was always telling me stories of like when I was young, right. Like I would, middle of summer, dude, I'd have on like jeans, cowboy boots, 5 shirts and a beanie, right. And she'd get so much shit, from her family, from her friends, like kid dresses like an idiot, right. Whatever. But she was, she played to it, man. She was always like, hey, look, I'm gonna let him be him, and hopefully someday that stubbornness and just pays off. And so I think that's at a core root core of that, dude, is from that environment, from seeing that drive, but then also like I've never had a problem at beating to my own drum, right, like doing what I feel is right, and I've also just growing up in how I grew up. Like, look, dude, I've had a lot of money. And I've also been broke as a joke, right? To the point where, living on food stamps and every meal's, pancakes and having to make our own syrup out of brown sugar and top ramen. And that was it, right? But the reality was, dude, life was good no matter what. So I don't have a fear of loss or like take all my cars, take my houses. Like, like you get that question where like, oh, if your house is on fire, like what's the thing you grab? I'm like, get my wife, kids, and my dogs out, dude. Like I could give 2 fucks about anything else in there. Like I have zero attachment to anything. And I always look at like, what's the worst thing that could happen, right? Worst thing that could happen, I lose everything. My wife, my 3 kids, and our 2 dogs, and I go, live in, I don't know, 400 square foot studio apartment, blow up air mattresses on the floor. Like fuck, life's still pretty damn good then. Right? Still got love, still got, whatever. So during those tough times, dude, I guess I don't get a lot of the maybe pressure that other people do, because I just, I know what I value, right? And which is just doing my best in the moment, and sometimes doing your best in the moment. Like, dude, I've had hard times, man, as dude, right? Like halfway through my career, I lost everything, put myself in $100,000 business credit card debt, and that was it because my real estate company was failing. I, made some other bad investments and made some other bad decisions. But I've had to rebound from those times, and I know that you've been through some tough financial times too. And, but going through those tough times, man, I want to rebound and push through it's more of a proving to myself. I get asked like, dude, like, why do you keep pushing? Why do you keep grinding? You can be done today, whatever. And again, when I reflect deeply on this, because you got to spend a lot of time in self-reflection and really get to the root cause of really what drives you. It's like, look, dude, like I want to look in the mirror and the dude looking back at me, like I want to be proud of that motherfucker. Right. And there's days where I am, but it's not always consistent, right? I still got a long way to go until like I guess that's just maybe me hitting my potential or whatever that may be. But during tough times, man, just brace the challenge, dude. And also put things into perspective. Like what's the worst that could happen? You're not going to fucking die. Right. And 2, you go through enough tough times, you quickly realize that getting through those tough times become your greatest assets ever. And that is really what allows you to go out there and create success. And as you're studying the greats, you won't like, look at Elon Musk. Yeah. Right. Sells PayPal for $225 million. puts all of it, chips all in SpaceX, Tesla, and just bombs it all. Yeah, right. Everything tanks to the point where, dude, his wife he loses his house, forecloses his house. His wife divorces him and takes the kids. He's sleeping on his buddy's couch. Yeah, right. They're getting ready to chain the doors. And luckily, a VC firm, saved him at the very end. And look what he is today. But watching that guy ride the line down, right. With this stuff. I've spent a lot of time studying the greats, dude. I've never met one of them, and not just with business, but look at like Muhammad Ali, like what he went through when he, dodged the war and everything he went through. Had to go through hell, man, had to go through hatred and hell and whatever. But then later to be, one of the most loved human beings to, he's one of the greatest men that's ever existed on this planet, right? So, just really putting things into perspective, dude, right? Because we think shit's all falling apart, so ugly, so bad, so nasty, right? Two deals fell out of us, whatever. But when you put it all into perspective, dude, it's not, it's all up here. Like, it's not a fucking near as bad as we think it is.
No, it's great to watch you, and honestly, your journey and hear about it. And I think it's so inspiring to everyone else to know, look, this guy's extremely successful now, but he's been where a lot of people watching, where I've been myself, where we're down and out. And people are counting us out. Like, they don't think we're going to come back. And when you rise and you grind and you keep pushing, and then once you're there, don't ever stop to let that come back. You never want to go back there. You gotta make it happen.
And more than, people always, you always hear the quote of, oh, the greatest revenge is massive success, right? And yeah, not to say that stuff doesn't feel kind of good, but it's not going to be lasting. I mean, at the end of the day, what you're really doing is you're developing the self-confidence to prove to yourself of what you're made of, right? I mean, it's like, when people are, like, my supplement company is called Forge, Forj, right? And it's after, like forging steel, but it's like, look, your mind, your body, your health isn't, it's up to you to forge it to whatever you want, right? The same goes true with this, dude. It's, and I think I kind of lost perspective of what we were originally jamming on there. But yeah, dude, when you're going through those moments, man, it's proving to yourself what you're capable of and developing that self-confidence over time. Because the reality, if you break this down, there's so many people out there that are less intelligent than you or I or whoever's watching this, right? That have less potential, that are living the dreams that we want to be living right now. Why? Right? Well, they had the self-confidence and they had the balls to go out there and take fucking massive action. Right. Well, how do you go out there and, I started a business several years ago where, dude, I had to pony up my whole entire life savings, chips on, I had some younger dudes that worked for me at my studio. And, they were like, oh man, it'd be so nice to, have a high net worth and, do what you do. And I'm like, all right, I'm like, let me ask you this. Would you be willing to, let's just say you had, $500,000 in the bank account. Would you be willing to, pony all of that in? Into something that's a risk, right? And then devote 80 hours of a week, for 3 or 4 years of your life for maybe it to work out. And they're all like, hell no. I'm like, well, then you'll never be me, right? Like, I'm that guy, right? But I have such a, it's like I don't invest in paper assets. I don't, like, I bet on myself, man. And a lot of that, dude, like, I didn't get this self-confidence because of all the good, right? It's been through getting through all the shit, right? So you guys, like, it's a necessary process of the journey, right? But when you look at it that way, it gets you excited. Like, it sounds kind of morbid and twisted, like, pain sucks, right? But pain becomes your best friend, right? It's your best teacher, right? But when pain shows up, man, it's you just got to shift that perspective, man, and know that this is going to be, like, whenever, like, the most painful point in your life that you go through next, that will be the next greatest learning moment that will propel your success to the next level if you choose it to allow to be the teacher that it is.
No, it's great. I mean, I think, in everything you said, there's so much learning opportunities from that for people. How important are books to you, and what are you currently reading?
Dude, books are books. No, books are important, dude. Of course, yeah. Let's just call it self-development, right? Because today it's
everything.
I'm reading less and less books than I ever have probably today. But I'm taking way more digital courses, and And now with, the digital, just how it is, it changed the game. So if we look at self-development, I mean, it's massive, right? It's everything, right? Because I mean, when you're trying to create success in any aspect of your life, right? It all stems from outside of, okay, you got to want it, you got to be committed, all this stuff. But then that's just the given, right? Then from there, right, your ability to go out there and create success is going to be determined based on your ability to identify what your current biggest problem and or problems are that you must solve to take you to the next level, right? And you got to be able to identify those problems, and it's self-development that gets you out of those problems, right? And if you can become really good at that, dude, man, the momentum happens huge. I get so often, because I don't do any one-on-one coaching. A lot of people hit me up like, hey, who's the best one-on-one coach? And I'm like, dude, that's a terrible question. And you're going to go out there and you're going to pay a bunch of coaches. You have a lot of bad experiences. You're going to blame it on the coaches. But the truth is, it's all because you did a shitty job at identifying who the best coach for you is. Right? There's no one size fits all coach for everybody. Like, you got to identify what is my current biggest problem that exists in my world, that if I solve this, it takes me to the next level. And then go out there and find whether it's the best coach or podcast or webinar or book, and most people use self-development. Like, they think, oh, I'm self-developing, right, dude, it just becomes mental fucking masturbation, right? It becomes another form of entertainment, right? It just tickles their ears, makes them feel good, like they're doing something productive, and they're not doing shit with it, right? Like, I get people all the time that'll name drop a book to me. I'm like, oh, cool, awesome, thanks for the recommend. Let me ask you this. Like, what were your biggest takeaways from the book? And then what was the most impactful thing that you've implemented in your life? And what have the results been since you implemented? Dude, 9 out of 100 people, when I ask that question to, it's like a deer in headlights. They don't even remember what was in the book, right? And a lot of that is because you're reading shit that other people might be recommending that don't have to do with your problem right now, right? The teacher always appears when the student is ready. And you're not going to be ready to receive that message until it's relevant to that point in your life. And it makes sense to you, right? So, and that's why you can read a book, the same book. Let's just say it's a great book, like Think and Grow Rich or whatever. You read it every year for the next 10 years, if you're as you're an entrepreneur or whatever. Each year it's going to mean something different to you, right? Because you're at a different level, So self-development, it's huge, but you got to have a process and a system and be effective with it to create success with that. So what I'm reading right now, and this goes back to a system for self-development, the power of awareness. Dope book. It's all about manifestation, right? But not like cheesy, like The Secret Manifestation. Like, this guy breaks it down. I mean, he articulates it way better, and it's so much more powerful than any book on manifestation I've ever read. But this book, I'm on my 7th time reading it right now. Right. And I'm going to read it until I've mastered the book. So I used to go out there, because you hear stats like, oh, the average CEO reads 60 books a year. And I used to do that, man. I was like, crush a book a week. But I was the guy I was just describing, right? Where now, man, I'm like, no, I'm going to find like the book that I need to read. Like, I'd rather find 6 books a year and read each of those books 10 times and really master those books. I found that there's only a handful of books really that, are extremely relevant, at least that I've read that right. But it just that, again, it's the repetition, success and mastery, or success through mastery, with that.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, no, I like that principle. I tend to find to do that a lot where I really dive into one thing and I just keep exploring, keep reading it, keep going through and trying to get better and better and better and better and better till to the point where I feel I have a lot more than just, a lot more value than reading, 20 books or 20 programs and just getting overwhelmed and, picking up, if I pick up anything, right? It's just too much. Well, we have a couple, also some guests here that I told them you're coming on the show, and want to give them a quick shout out to Jason Judson from Orlando, Florida. His question is, what do you think is the fastest way a new agent can grow their business?
All right. So, you got to slow down to go fast. Right. Everybody jumps in, dude, and they want to go and start lead generating and I get that's going to lead to some deals, right. But very quickly you get enough success going where then it just does nothing but stifles your long-term success for probably most of your career. Right. So when I say slow down to go fast, here's what I mean. Right. There's some critical things to do. So like if I have a new agent joining my team or whatever, Number one, we're going to make sure that it doesn't have to necessarily be in this order. Like we're going to spend the first at least 30 days dialing this stuff in. This is way before lead generation happens, right? Number one, making sure that your tracking system is set up. Not only is it set up and in place, but that you're consistently in the habit now of tracking every single day. And I don't care if you're brand new and you're putting in zeros every day, just get in the habit of filling in that tracker every day, right? You can't, it's impossible to grow a successful business without knowing your data. So, and this is where, I don't know. I mean, it's so rare, man. It's less than 1% of the agent population that I meet that tracks their numbers the way they should be tracked, right? So tracking system setup. Number two, your CRM system, right? Your CRM is your number one most important tool and asset in this business, right? And your CRM shouldn't just help you convert leads, right? It's everything inside your business, right? I want a CRM where I'm working my leads, my clients, my past clients, my under contracts, transaction management, sphere of influence, right? But you've got, like, if you let's just say you went out and got the whole of the top 100 Wall Street journalists, right? Top 100 team leaders in the country. And you went out there and just interviewed every single one of them. The one thing that they will all have in common is, they use and abuse and have mastered their CRMs, right? They understand the importance of it. We talked about Infusionsoft earlier. It's the CRM that I utilize for almost everything that I do outside of real estate, right? Real estate, I use Perfect Storm, but for that, I use Infusionsoft for the other stuff. And dude, I have spent, probably 50, 60 grand on just going to events and trainings, and I've spent thousands of hours just mastering that system. It's so important to master your CRM. Now, real estate CRMs, aren't as complex as that, so it doesn't take that. But that first, because dude, if you're spending an hour a day for 30 days, you're going to master your CRM. Yeah, right. So I get a CRM and get that dialed in. Then from there, master your presentations, your listing presentation and buyer presentation. Now, you're not going to master them in the first 30 days, but I push my agents to role play their listing presentation and buyer presentation 1,000 times each in their first 12 months. When I say role play, I'm not talking like one-on-one, right? I'm talking like late at home or get home late at night, right? Spend time with your family. They go to bed. Instead of binge watching Netflix or some useless bullshit, set up your kitchen table, pretend there's somebody across from you, and you're just going through it. Yeah, right. But get that stuff dialed in, and at least have them in place, and know it, to a decent level. Then from there, I'm going to make sure that your sphere of influence and past client plans are not just dialed in, but that for 30 days, I'm going to be tapping into your sphere of influence. Right, going back through and friend requesting everybody on social media and doing I have 4 posting per day social media strategy, and then we have some sphere of influence scripts that we utilize. Where isn't the douchey or anybody looking to buy or sell, right? It's hey, I just jumped into the business and reaching out to those that I look up to, I respect, I trust, and like I know when you tell me or give me a recommendation, I know I can fully trust it. Well, as a real estate agent, not only do people expect me to be able to help them go buy and sell homes, but another thing is they look to me to be their resource, right? So I'm creating a vendor list of anything and everything to do with real estate, from pool companies, landscapers, contractors, insurance agents, right? And look, I just haven't used enough of them over the years to have a complete list. So again, I'm just reaching out to those that I respect and trust your opinion on, that I know I can, if you say that you got somebody good, that I know I can put them on this list because they're good. Do you have anybody in mind that you think that is great, they've had a great experience with? You're just planting that seed, and then we tackle with social media with that, and just little things like that, right? But tapping into that. Then from there, know your market, right? So spend an hour a day, every single day, looking through your MLS, right? And when I say, like, let's just say you're in you live in Gilbert, right? So, okay, I'm from Gilbert, Arizona. Every single day, I'm going to look through every new active listing that just hit the market in the last 24 hours. I'm going to look at all the photos, but I'm going to look at, also the tax records, the builder, the school district, the features, right? But I'm going to do that with every new listing that hits the market, everything that goes pending, everything that goes sells, everything. So this is just the last 24 hours, right, that we're going back. And then everything that's expired, canceled, or withdrawn. Right. And usually for the first 2 weeks, it's like you're still kind of going through it and you don't really know what you're kind of doing. But after a month of that, the dots connect, dude. And you start to know the popular subdivisions, the builders, the school districts, the areas, the price per square foot, what the most popular features on. You really get to know your market very quickly that way. Then take another hour a day and drive one neighborhood, right? And then as you're driving that neighborhood, drive it, know all the local businesses that are close to that neighborhood, the schools, the parks, and then pick 2 properties that you're going to view in that neighborhood. Maybe there's a new build, subdivision or whatever, new builds you're going to go preview, or a couple vacant resales, right? But after 30 days of doing that, dude, you've mastered your local market more so than probably agents that have been selling your market for decades. Right? Then after 30 days of getting that dialed in, then let's identify at a maximum your 2 lead generation strategies that you're going to go after. And strategies is the important component with that, right? Like you got to identify what your strengths are. You got to know, play to your strengths. So like for me, I'm introverted. I hate the phones. Phone rings, like even right now, like phone rings, I get anxiety. I'm like, who the fuck's calling me? Right? Like I hate the phones, even though I've gotten good at it over the years, but I hate it. I hate cold calling. I hate all of that, right? I like business where people are attracted to me, or, I attract business, which is one of the reasons why I've spent so much time mastering online funnels with that. But play to your strengths. Who's your ideal client? And play to your strengths. Identify those, and then just repeat. Right? And then from there, you just continue going. Once you get those dialed, then the only next thing that you need to do is eventually start plugging in the right people from your growth mode.
Well, that was a great answer. Jason, I hope that's satisfactory, because that was some amazing information for those watching. Next one is from Christine Wilson from San Antonio, Texas. Texas in the house. What are some tips for handling the shift?
Dude, here's the cool part about it is most MLS systems go back at least 15 years. So you can start studying historic data of what inventories look like and what things, start to be being introduced. Now for most of the country though, it falls within these lines, right? Anything below 4 months of inventory is a seller's market. And then when you get to 4 to 5, in that 4 and 5 month window, that's usually a neutral market. Now, most people in the media will say 6 months is a neutral market, but the market doesn't stay still, right? So by the time it hits 6 months, usually, and that data is reported, it's 6 point whatever, and it's always this moving scale, right? So then by the time we hit 6 months, it's entering a buyer's market. By the time you hit 7 months, you're going to start seeing short sales introduced. By the time you hit 8 months, you're going to start seeing some REOs introduced to the marketplace. So the cool thing is none of this shifts on a dime like people think. It appears like it shifts on a dime because they're not paying attention. So one of the things I've always done in my career is every single month, I pull the data and we do a monthly video market update report, right? But that also forces me to always know my inventory and then seeing what it's been doing for the past months and how it's moving, because look, you have a lot of time to prepare for this. So be ready for that and know how to prepare for that. Because if you know what that looks like and that the market is shifting, it's growing at this, right? Then from there, as long as you know the right questions to ask, right? Then you can find the solution. Because the next question then to ask is, and this really becomes just a perspective that you must learn to operate by. There is no such thing as a bad market. It's always a good market for somebody. So it's our job as real estate professionals to identify whom is the market good for, and then shift over our marketing strategy and our efforts to them. Because marketing strategy is all the same, right? It doesn't ever change. What I do to get FSBOs or expireds or Facebook leads or direct mail or, is the same for short sales, same for REO asset managers, same for, hedge fund clients, all of that. So we just shift over, you got to master marketing strategy first, but then shift that over whom it's good for, right? Like, let's just say the market starts transitioning out of the seller's market that it's been for so long into a buyer's market. Well, who's the buyer's market good for, right? Number one, it's amazing and epic for anybody that's moving up, right? Like you see so many people selling and then buying it, selling and then buying up when the market's hot. That's the dumbest fucking time to move up, dude. Yeah, right. If the market's down 20% and you're moving up, 20% on that next house price point is much greater of an equity standpoint or a price standpoint differential than on your property. Right. Plus, then you have investors, and and then it gets severe enough. Then when I say whom is the market good for, it may not always be good for them. It's just meaning that they exist, like short sales and REO. Right. But getting into short sales, right. Again, it's just pain and pleasure, man. Everybody's got a pain that they're experiencing, and they have a pleasure they want to get to. You just got to identify that, articulate that to them in the marketing that you have the solution and you're the best guide for that. Right. But with the last market shift cycle, and from the previous markets that I've studied of this, I've only been through one massive crash. The crash, I guess. But it was, obviously the boom started to flatline. It happened fast. Again, then short sales were introduced. I was doing a lot of short sales. Then I got to the point where REO hit, right. And then when REO flatlined, bottomed out, that's when all I call it smart money moved in, right. Your hedge funds, your Blackstones, and people that are swallowing up 500-600 homes in a market a month, right. And then by the time that market's over and they're pulling out, then it means the market's, was correcting and going back to traditional business. So during that time, though, I was just, again, identifying whom is the market good for and positioning and adding value. But dude, it takes a lot of work. I mean, it took me 6 months, locking myself in an office 4 hours a day, 6 months to get my first REO account. And I ended up getting 35 accounts over the years doing REO, right? But I had to grind, just like you would calling a seller buyer, right? With that. So the last important thing with a transition and a shift is you got to be prepared to like double, triple, quadruple down. Right. So here's an example, right? When the market started to after the bottom of the market, it's starting to regain equity again, right? I still had all these REOs that I was servicing, not near the volume, right? But I still had a lot of clients. I couldn't let those clients go, right? Still was working with some hedge fund clients, working with those. But at the same time, I'm having to manage all the business that I'm currently doing, right? Because I can't let that go. And then figure out a way to add these extra hours to build up for what's to come, right? So same thing when the market starts to crash. Right. Like the business that you have going right now, you still got to service that business and keep at it. It'll slowly start diminishing, right. And then the other method that you're going for will slowly start to creep up, and there'll be a point where it levels out. But let's just say, 5 or 6 month transition, as you're making that transition, man, it's double tripling down. I mean, those are the, 18, 20 hour work days. And that's why so many agents get weeded out during these shifts. Yeah, right. It isn't because the market's bad. It's because they're not willing to put in the work and they're not committed.
Excellent answer, Josh. You've been outstanding. There's so much knowledge that you dropped for us. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience? Feel free to let them know where they can contact you or get involved in the 90-day programs, the training programs, or any of the other things that you'd like to talk about.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, everything that you guys is at gsdmode.com, www.gsdmode.com, or you can always look me up on YouTube. Just type in, Joshua Smith on YouTube and you'll see me, or Joshua Smith GSD on YouTube and you'll see it there. And look, you guys, I'm not here to plug the boot camp. Frank already kind of did that for me. But look, as agents, man, I was just having this conversation earlier this morning with one of my teammates. But I've got multiple companies outside of real estate. And over the years, I've had, about a dozen different companies that I've built, sold, exited from successfully. And right now they have 6. And a few of those are in real estate, but a lot of them outside of real estate. And I get sold 10-1 in my real estate business than any of those other businesses. Like, it's so saturated. Everybody's just trying to pitch us shit all day long. And I get how annoying that is. So when you go to gsdmode.com, you're going to see just insane amounts of free content. So got a podcast, just like Frank's great podcast here. Been at that now for about 4 or 5 years. I think we had over 1,000, podcast releases. But in there's more than just podcast interviews. Like all my speaking gigs, we video those and I give them out there for free. So I have one, I think that it's like a 6-hour speaking event, 4 different speakers. I mean, we have just shit ton of content on there. So speaking events, and I create a lot of other, just leveling up content and other content, real estate tips out there, which is all free to help you go out there and grow your business. Also, I recommend on GSD mode, there's 2 free resources, for you guys that I highly recommend. Number 1 on there is, see this on the bottom bar of the page. It's my 41 weeks of free coaching tips. Oh, Joshua Smith. Now there's nothing being sold in there. There's no pitches. I mean, like these tips are novel emails. I mean, it could be a huge ass book, right? But in there, it's scripts, it's tactics, and again, just great content that help you grow your business and blow up your business. There's nothing being sold in there, because again, I know that gets annoying. And look, at the end of the day, dude, this industry has changed my world, changed my life, and I know it's hard to believe because there's a lot of shitty people out there, unfortunately, in this world. But it's just a lot of the stuff is just my way of giving back to it. The industry has changed my life, and as I said earlier, it's giving back to those mentors that poured into me, where that becomes your responsibility, right? And then on there too, on GSD mode, I have a 3-hour free online masterclass for real estate agents, which, dude, is such a deep dive on all those businesses. There's 3 elements that you must know and master, and then you apply those to the 7 fundamentals of real estate. You do that, you'll crush it in any market that's out there. And on there, it's and I give you all the resources to execute afterwards, all the guides, all the checklists, everything on that. So again, just a ton of epic free stuff out there to help you guys grow your real estate business.
Perfect. Hey, guys, I highly recommend it. I'll put in the links below. Check it out. This guy's the real deal. I'm not going to promote or recommend anyone that I don't 100% believe is absolutely the best at what he does and the person you want to check out. And I can tell you for sure Joshua Smith is that. And go check out his podcast. He's got epic guests on there. And like I said, I'll put all the links below. Thanks so much for coming on the Frank Driscoll Show, Josh. Loved having you on here. And as always, you just dropped a ton of knowledge. It was awesome. Thank you.
That was an honor, man. I truly appreciate you, and I truly appreciate those that watched and listened. I know this went long, so it truly means a lot. Blessed to be here.
Okay, take care, guys, and we'll see you next time. Make sure you click like and subscribe, and really appreciate it. Take care.